Oh no.
Come on, Baymax. It's up to us.
Ever since the Big Hero 6 was formed, they have become a constant reminder of justice upheld and peace protected. Despite this, each one of them has his or her way of relieving stress from being a superhero. Take, for example, Go-Go. Every time they apprehend a lawbreaker, she always makes an early exit. Hiro asks the question, where does she go? Wasabi and Honey Lemon are not bothered by it. They understand that they don't need to know everything about each other. But Hiro and Fred want to know. So one day, they follow Go-Go. Through their persistence, they find out she goes to Murahara Woods National Park, just outside the city proper. It is an excellent spot for nature observation. It is also home to many animal species. Hiro, who has never experienced camping before, wonders why someone like Go-Go would bother coming here. On the other hand, Fred is excited because the park is also known as the home of the Hibagon. According to rumors, it's a creature standing 9 feet tall, with chocolate-colored hair and long feet. As they secretly follow Go-Go, Hiro, and Fred encounter things that are normal when entering a preserved forest. Gnats swarm in front of them, muddy spots are everywhere, and bugs tend to land on them. Hiro is not a fan of these things and very much prefers city life. Despite this, they continue following their friend. When they climb a tree, they find her calmly sitting on a rock. They see her looking at a woodpecker through her binoculars. Hiro assumes she must be birdwatching. Before they can discuss this further, the branch they are standing on snaps. They fall onto the river. Baymax jumps in to rescue them. But the current is too strong for them. Fortunately, Hiro manages to grab onto a tree branch. They all got out of the river. Once they do, they notice that something is wrong with Baymax. His words have become incoherent and he doesn't seem to see them. Hiro thinks the water got into the robot system. But the carbon fiber mainframe is fine. What's more interesting is that when Fred attempts to call Heathcliff, his phone is glitching. Something must be affecting their devices. Fred suggests they find Go-Go to help them. Forgetting about the wandering Baymax, they shout their friend's name. Speaking of Go-Go, she has come back from her secret birdwatching. She proceeds to their lab, where Honey Lemon and Wasabi are working. Wasabi notes that she looks like she's in a good mood, considering Hiro and Fred followed her. Go-Go is surprised by this, saying she didn't see them. They grow more concerned when they can't reach their phones. Honey Lemon suggests they look for them since it's about to go dark. Back in the forest, Hiro and Fred have become completely lost. And they can't find Baymax. From behind a bush, a bear suddenly appears. As it's about to attack them, another creature appears. He is a tall, thin man with wild hair and a beard. He holds a staff, which he wields against the bear. Then, he stands on their shoulders and growls, intimidating the forest animal. He jumps off of them and rides a huge moose. The bear comes back, so the man tells the boys to come with him. He brings them to a cozy treehouse in the middle of the forest. There, the boys learn that he is Ned Ludd. He was considered the real estate king before his disappearance. And no one knows why he disappeared. It turns out, he was driving along the forest, thinking of developing it into a huge city. Then, he lost control of the car brakes. He was heading down a cliff when he saw a meteor crashing just near him. He was about to plunge into the cliff when the car glitched and stopped. Because of this, he thought the meteor was a sign for him to live in the forest and give up his real estate career. Since then, he has become the guardian of the Murahara forest. He has learned to detest any technological devices because he thinks the meteorite, which he calls Bessie, doesn't like it. Also, he's the rumored Hibagon, much to Fred's dismay. Hiro instantly knows the meteorite affects the surrounding magnetic field which makes devices dysfunctional. Thinking about Baymax, he asks Ned to help them find their friend. Not knowing that Baymax is a robot, Ned immediately helps them. When they find the robot blissfully lost in the woods, Ned feels betrayed and gets angry. He binds Baymax's feet and traps the two boys. He tells them he'll push the robot off the cliff because that is what Bessie wants. Helpless, the two boys watch him drag Baymax away. Fortunately, Go-Go and the others find them. She is annoyed about them following her, but for now, she's glad they are alive. The others have already found out their devices are useless in the forest, even a simple flashlight. Fred tells them that the crazy ex-real estate developer got Baymax. So they think about their next move. Then, Hiro gets an idea. If they can't find Ned, then they must lure him to them. Together, they all prepare booby traps. They also create impromptu weapons to protect themselves. Then, for the final piece of their plan, Hiro asks Go-Go to create a bonfire. His tactic works. As Ned drags Baymax, he sees the smoke coming from afar. Afraid that his dear forest will be in danger, he leaves Baymax. When the robot is alone, the moose from earlier appears and walks toward Baymax. Meanwhile, Ned finds the bonfire. Hiro and Fred appear before him. Hiro strikes a deal with the man. If he gives Baymax back, they will leave immediately. But Ned is not forgiving. He puts out the bonfire and chases the boys. Fred makes himself the bait for Ned, while Hiro will look for his robot. The wild man is intent on catching Fred, despite the surprise attacks from Honey Lemon and Wasabi. He also expertly dodges the traps. As Ned is about to catch Fred, Hiro, and Baymax appear, riding the moose. He falls into the second trap, but he climbs up. Go-Go throws him a binding rope, which causes him to fall into the third trap. This time, he can't climb up due to a fractured elbow. Hiro says Baymax can heal him if only the robot is put far from Bessie's reach. With no choice, Ned complies. Later on, Baymax puts his elbow in a cast. Hiro points out that technology can be used for good things, too. Ned is still not convinced, though. He tells them to leave the forest and never come back. After all, the city is where the Big Hero 6 is more useful, especially during their nighttime patrol. Fred decides to bring his group in front of the city's museum, which is currently holding a night gala. He believes the place can be a good place where lawbreakers can do evil things. Indeed, after a few moments, the curator comes out of the door and conveniently announces the attack of an inhuman freak. After this, people rush outside. Hiro, Baymax, Fred, and Honey Lemon go inside to apprehend the culprit. They see Globby, the petty thief who turned into a gooey, sticky monster because of Honey Lemon's chem purse. He's covered in glass shards, which indicates his clumsiness hasn't improved. Globby intends to steal a painting called City Rising, created by the artist Lenore Shimamoto. It depicts the rise of San Francisco after a catastrophic earthquake. They are able to prevent the stealing of this painting. Globby turns into a ball and escapes. The next day, they discuss this development with Wasabi and Go-Go. Although the culprit has escaped, at least they saved the painting. Then, Baymax reminds Hiro that his school project is due that day, which is 10% finished. Hiro overestimates his ability to finish it just in time. He is supposed to create a model of a building that can withstand a magnitude 9 earthquake. As a result of this overestimation, his prototype failed. Although the design is much more suitable in terms of stability, it's not reinforced with anything. That's why when the earthquake simulator reaches magnitude 3, Hiro's project breaks. And Carmi, his classmate, does not miss the opportunity to shame him. Professor Granville gives him another chance to improve the project, so Hiro calls his friends to critique his prototypes. However, all of his presentations have been made by either them or his brother Tadashi. For the first time, he is running out of ideas. He hasn't experienced a failed project before, so he doesn't know how to deal with his failures and frustrations. Wasabi gives him a pep talk about how school is hard, even for geniuses like Hiro. But what matters is his perseverance. But Hiro chooses to sulk in his workshop for now. In the meantime, Baymax, Honey Lemon, and Fred go back to the museum. Honey Lemon teaches Baymax about art, while Fred secures the broken fountain he created from last night's scuffle with Globby. While they are touring the museum, Globby strikes again. This time, the museum curator locks down the whole museum. Honey Lemon calls their other members to deal with the offender. Globby manages to steal the same painting and get away for a few blocks. He bounces off in his ball form, happy to have finally done a successful heist. But he bumps into Baymax. Hiro gets the painting while he falls. He is frustrated with his failures. Why even bother to try when he can't be successful? The others attempt to apprehend him. When Honey Lemon throws a chemball to freeze him, Globby suddenly melts and escapes through the sewage. He ends up in the lonely bay of San Francisco. He is so amazed to realize he can turn into water. He tries turning his hand into metal. And indeed, his globby hand becomes steel. He tries other variations, such as ice, wood, rock, and even chocolate, which he gladly eats. Does that mean he eats himself? Anyway, he remembers that the neurotransmitter he's wearing is capable of controlling his reality. Therefore, whatever he thinks he wants to create, he can make it into a reality. Realizing the implication of this, he forms a sinister plan in his mind. Meanwhile, Hiro has given up on the project. So what if he fails? But the others won't let him, though. They know and believe that Hiro is capable of creating a wonderful project that is his own if only he can overcome his thoughts of self-loathing. He thinks that perhaps, he's not as smart as his late brother. With that, he walks out of their laboratory. Baymax, who just finished painting a scanned diagram of his friends, follows Hiro. He shows him a clip of Tadashi also getting frustrated at his invention not working. He also said the same things as Hiro. He thinks about this when Wasabi informs him that the painting they just saved the other day will be put in storage. This is a good move, but they need to guard it during transit. It turns out, they did the right thing. Globby chooses this opportunity to attack. This time, he's using his newfound abilities. He easily steals the painting and secures it behind his back. Then he fights with the big Hiro 6. One of his advantages is that he has faced them multiple times and has become familiar with their moves. So he knows how to counter them. In the end, everyone ends up stuck. And he bounces away with the painting on his back, successfully carrying out an art heist at last. For the first time, they lost. But Hiro manages to cheer them up, telling them it's okay to be discouraged sometimes. As long as they learn from their failures, they will succeed. Globby delivers the painting to his client. It turns out, Obake has hired him for the heist. He doesn't want the painting itself, but he wants the scientific blueprint hidden beneath. Back in the university, Hiro eventually creates a successful prototype. It has a built-in sensor that measures seismic forces and counters them. Professor Granville praises him for this groundbreaking invention. Carmi is so upset about this. And Hiro takes this opportunity to snap a picture of her. What a comeback.
Other people want my distinct honor to introduce Bodyguard. Miracle. It can look like anything.
It is a perfect extension.
Being a part of the big Hiro 6 is cool and all, but Hiro has one concern about it. His Aunt Cass doesn't know about it. There are many times when his duties as a superhero overlap with his bonding time with his aunt. Sometimes, she even enters Hiro's workshop and almost catches him putting on Baymax's armor. He appreciates his aunt's efforts in raising him, but he doesn't want her to know his identity for fear of not being allowed to do these things anymore. Technically, Hiro is still a minor. Plus, he and the others deal with some dangerous enemies more often than not. All these are justifiable reasons for Aunt Cass to worry. So, Hiro thinks of an idea to get her preoccupied and not give her a chance to get curious about his activities. And that is, to find her a date. But for now, he'll attend Alistair Cray's unveiling of his newest invention, the bodyguard. It is a small, floating robotic companion that can guard you against evildoers. Another notable thing about it is that it can go invisible. It's marketed as an everyday protector, but there are many harmful implications overshadowed by its flashy characteristics. Hiro and the others raise this concern to Alistair. At first, he ignores them. But when he's back in his office, he does take note of their concerns. Just then, one of his inventors, Mel Myers, enters to confront his boss. Mel is the one who invented the flexible display technology that allows the bodyguard to become invisible. He feels dismayed when he finds out it has been used to harm people more than to make funny moments. But his concerns are disregarded. Alistair is notorious for being an opportunist when it comes to acquiring new technology. So instead of dealing with his employee's concern, he fires him. After that, he comes to the San Francisco Institute of Technology to see Hiro and others. He wants them to check his invention because it turns out, the bodyguard still has a lot of things to improve on. Mainly on not shooting random people. The kids can't reject the request because Alistair blackmails them to reveal their identities as the big Hiro 6 if they will not do what he says. With no choice, Hiro takes the robot. Just then, Aunt Cass comes in to deliver her nephew's homework. Alistair bumps into her. Instantly, attraction blooms between the two of them, which Hiro doesn't like. Sure, he's looking for a date for his aunt, but Alistair Cray. However, it seems like he won't be able to do anything about the chemistry between the two. Right there and then, they decide to have a date that night. Hiro is very much uncomfortable with this. So he decides to follow the two. They end up in a fancy restaurant. Hiro uses Baymax as a distraction while he sneaks in through the back door. Then, he sees the two of them having an animated conversation. It really looks like Aunt Cass and Alistair have hit it off. Hiro does a childish prank by tripping the waiter, causing him to spill food all over Alistair. He pretends to forgive the waiter, more to impress Aunt Cass than to show his kind heart. He goes to the restroom to clean up. That's when Mel surprises him, using the technology he invented. He binds Alistair with a rope, steals his key card, then comes out pretending as Alistair. Unfortunately, Aunt Cass spots him. Because he doesn't know her, he shows her rudeness, to which she takes offense. Aunt Cass, who doesn't know what has happened, feels her mood ruined and insists on Alistair take her home. With no choice, Mel, pretending as his boss, takes the lady into the waiting car. Hiro sees this and wonders what happened. He contacts Baymax to scan Aunt Cass and Alistair that went out of the restaurant door. The robot reports that Alistair has had a DNA change. With this bizarre information, Hiro checks the restroom. There he discovers the real Alistair gagged and bound. He tells the kid he stole his company ID. With this, Hiro calls his friends to meet up at Cray Tech. Meanwhile, Wasabi and others are dissecting the robot left to them. Fred comes in to bring their food and drinks for the night. Just then, he accidentally spills soda on the robot. It short-circuits, before floating and turning invisible. Then it shoots beams at them. Everyone scrambles as to how they can find the rogue robot. Fred decides to squirt ketchup all around until it lands on the invisible robot. Honey Lemon and Go-Go beat it until it completely stops. Upon further inspection, Wasabi concludes that the spilled soda caused the installed threat assessment program to fail. This in turn makes the robot see everyone as a threat. They are right about it being hazardous in the first place. Then they receive Hiro's call. At Craze Tech, Mel finally retrieves the blueprints for his invention. But Alistair and the Big Hero 6 are already there, ready to apprehend him. Mel insists his invention is not for hurting people. Go-Go and Honey Lemon add that any liquid sprayed onto the robot will make it dangerous for everyone. As if on cue, Fred accidentally shoots fire toward the sprinkler system. It activates and starts to rain water on all of them. It falls on the bodyguard prototypes, which immediately start flying and turning invisible, then they wreak havoc. Wasabi manages to turn their visibility on, although every robot has now turned into a copy of Alistair's head. Kind of creepy. Mel escapes and enters the vehicle parked outside. He orders Aunt Cass to drive. Upon seeing the floating Alistair head after them, she steps on the gas. Luckily, Hiro and Baymax are freed. They give chase to the robots now chasing Mel and Aunt Cass. They manage to destroy almost all of the robots, except for one. It keeps on following the car up to the park. As it's about to target Mel and Aunt Cass, Baymax's rocket fist hits it first. After all the commotion, Mel gets apprehended by the police. Alistair will press charges against him. Aunt Cass questions this. Although she finds Mel a bit creepy, she now knows his story and has developed a bit of sympathy. But Alistair is firm. That's when she decides that perhaps dating life is not for her. Hiro thinks the same for his aunt as well. It's her life, anyway. If there's one thing that can be considered his flaw, it's that he pushes himself to do things that he thinks will benefit everyone, even if at the cost of other people's relationships or his health. One foggy night, as he and Baymax patrol the city, they spot 3 moving objects targeting a yacht in the ocean. When they come closer, they find out the yacht belongs to Alistair Cray. The moving objects are 3 human beings collectively known as Mad Jacks. They are trying to steal something from the tech billionaire. Therefore, Hiro and Baymax decide to save him. However, the culprits manage to bump the two, causing them to fall into the ocean. But the duo simply comes back up. Baymax uses his rocket fist to take down the 3 flying humans. They retreat for now. When the yacht reaches the harbor, Hiro asks Alistair if there's anything dangerous about the whole ordeal. The tech billionaire refuses to reveal any more information. The next day, Hiro starts to feel unwell. His friends tell him to go see a doctor. So he goes to see a pediatrician, along with Aunt Cass and Baymax. In there, we can see how efficient Baymax is as a healthcare provider. He easily detects the buildup of thick mucus in his nasal membranes, which is a sign of having a cold. He also scans his ears, which have fluid in the auditory canal, indicating a viral infection. Baymax also declares Hiro's body temperature to be higher than normal, which means he has the flu. Perhaps this is caused by their fall in the water last night. Plus, it is cold and flu season in San Francisco around this time. Therefore, it's no surprise that Hiro got sick. On the other hand, the pediatrician doesn't really appreciate it when a robot intervenes with her diagnosis. Regardless, Hiro is ordered to stay in bed. Baymax takes care of him. But the sickness doesn't stop him from thinking about the Mad Jacks. When he talks with his friends, Fred shares with them what he has found out. The Mad Jacks is a mercenary group that can be hired to do criminal things. They also choose to name each of them Jack for the sake of team cohesion. If that's not cheesy enough, they also have a theme song. Hiro believes they will strike again. And indeed, they do. That night, the Mad Jacks go to Cray Tech to abduct Alistair. Their goal is to intimidate him to give them the microchip. According to Alistair, he bought this item from the black market, which is rumored to contain a very secret innovation. Yep, that sounds legit. Hiro, knowing that Baymax is still recharging, gets up to deal with the lawbreakers despite his sickness. And this is what they take advantage of. One of them carries Hiro, and dumps him into a trash bin. He fails to apprehend them, and now he has to deal with a new health issue. The next day, he and Aunt Cass went back to the pediatrician. She has banned Baymax inside the clinic, but this doesn't stop the robot from scanning his patient. He detects fractures in 2 places. Because of this, Hiro has no choice but to stay in bed. Honey Lemon, Go-Go, Fred, and Wasabi all visit him. They chided him for being reckless and for doing the mission alone. But they also wish him to get well soon. Baymax announces that his patient needs rest. so everyone follows what the healthcare companion says. But the duties of being a superhero don't stop just because the hero gets sick. That night, Alistair calls Hiro for help. Apparently, the Mad Jacks have taken the microchip. They go away to deliver the item, while they leave him hanging on the rooftop of his building. Hiro wants to go, but decides to follow Baymax's orders. So he calls his friends to patrol the city and look out for the Mad Jacks. Speaking of these daredevils, they go to an abandoned warehouse. They are supposed to meet the one who hired them to steal the item. When their leader, whose real name is Greg, gets inside, he meets Obake. This mysterious man has been creating and executing plans ever since the Big Hero 6 was formed. Does this microchip have something to do with our young heroes? Greg gives him the item. But Obake manipulates the culprit to take it back, in case it needs more protection than him. Greg agrees. He flies out towards his members. Obake's actions are getting suspicious. What could be his endgame? Anyway, after this meetup, the Mad Jacks encounter the Big Hero 6, minus the kid in the purple suit. They almost take out everyone in the group when suddenly, Hiro arrives. Everyone is surprised because he is supposed to rest. But Baymax knows this newcomer isn't Hiro, but an empty suit that is remotely controlled. It turns out, Hiro fixed his suit to become robotic so that he can still join the action while resting. He can't help it. Together with Baymax, the Hero suit brings Greg up in the sky and destroys his jetpack. Then they let him fall, before catching him. Using this tactic, they convince Greg to give back the microchip. Hiro decides he's done enough to help his friends. Gogo and others return the item to Alistair. Now he feels rested and satisfied to have done his duties as a superhero. Now that Alistair has the chip again, he checks its contents. But he's surprised to know it's empty. In another location, Obake sits in front of his monitor, satisfied that his elaborate scheme has worked. All along, he has wanted to infiltrate the Cray Tech database. Not to steal their intellectual property, but to find out who are the members of Big Hero 6.
Okay, Mochi, slow clap.
Maximum insane obstacle challenges? I mean, look at me. I came prepared to be humiliated. It's fun.
Smoothie? Who would do such a thing?
Fred frantically enters the robotics lab where Hiro, Baymax, Wasabi, Gogo, and Honey Lemon are working. A video of the building on fire is currently trending on social media. This certainly calls for help from Big Hero 6. But first, they must suit up. They have to go back and forth between Fred's house and Gogo's apartment just to wear their suits. By the time they arrive at the scene, the firefighters have already taken care of the problem. The next day, they hang out at Aunt Cass's cafe. Hiro is thinking about how they can improve their issue with their suits and gears. If an emergency occurs and traveling to get their gears will be a waste of time, a neat and cool solution is in order. But for now, Aunt Cass wants to show off her cat's new skill. Machi is a fluffy, chunky calico cat loved by everyone. So, when he shows off his slow clap, everyone just falls for him more. Honey Lemon even takes a video and uploads it on her social media. After this cute interlude, Fred invites his friends to watch live the internet show's Maximum Insane Obstacle Challenge. It is an entertainment show where chosen contestants from the audience will undergo extreme activities for the public's entertainment. It is hosted by Mr. Sparkles. In fact, he's the one who conceptualized the whole show. It has gone viral ever since and Mr. Sparkles lives for fame and attention. Fred is a fan of the show. Reluctantly, Gogo is the one who comes with him. Mainly because she doesn't want another sticker party with Honey Lemon. Knowing her no-nonsense, serious attitude, Gogo finds the challenges incomprehensible and cringy. For real, who wants to be dipped in low-sodium soy sauce? Then Mr. Sparkles chooses her as the next challenger. But she refuses and stands her ground. This show is broadcasted live so people realize that not everyone is up to the challenges. The next day, Honey Lemon shows Gogo that the video she took of Machi slow clapping has gone viral. The video quickly climbs up the list of viral clips in their city. And the only one that's not happy with this is none other than Mr. Sparkles. Slowly he can see that his audience is not looking entertained by his challenges. No matter what he does, they all look bored. Then he loses major sponsorships and sees that all his merchandise has been replaced by Machi the slow clapping cat. What really drives the nail in the coffin is when he sees for himself that the public loves Machi more than him now. People like to take pictures of the cat, not him. He grinds his teeth. Nobody should ever take the sparkles from Mr. Sparkles. Meanwhile, Hiro is intent on developing an efficient system for them to have their suits on. His first iteration is that he installed a sort of remote mechanism on their suits. This means that at a touch of a button, they will all fly to where they are and suit them up. However, this fails because the mechanism mixes up the suits with the person. The next iteration is a big circular closet lifted by a parachute. But it also doesn't work. Wasabi tells Hiro that he may have the inventor's block. He even invites the kid to a session of meditation to help remove the block. It helps, although Hiro can't keep himself from thinking of improving their suits. A few days later, Machi goes missing. Aunt Cass doesn't know the details yet, but Hiro and the rest do. A viral video is now circulating online about Mr. Sparkles issuing another internet challenge. He names it the Totally Lethal Unfair Obstacle Challenge. The end goal is to free Machi, the slow-clapping cat, from its rocket cages. Challengers will undergo obstacles that are lethal and unfair to free the cat. If they fail, Machi will be sent to outer space. This shows how petty he can be. Kidnap a cat and issue a life-threatening challenge just because the animal manages to outshine him. Hiro sees the opportunity to test his new invention. Using the voice-integrated command, he orders the app to send their suits to Aunt Cass's cafe. However, it is still malfunctioning. Instead of the cafe, the app sends their suits to the middle of the ocean. Mr. Sparkles only gave a time limit of 1 hour. So they don't have the luxury of running after their suits. Hiro makes a decision. Wasabi, Fred, Honey Lemon, and Go-Go will try to save Machi from Mr. Sparkles. Baymax will comfort Aunt Cass and never let her see what's happening. And then he will come up with something. Just in case. So Wasabi and others go to the studio where the challenges are set up. It's full of booby traps, but somehow they all got inside. Each one of them attempts to complete Mr. Sparkles' challenge. First, they need to wear a broccoli suit. Then they have to avoid getting hit by massive carrots or falling in the ketchup, ranch, or feta dressing. Fred, Wasabi, and Honey Lemon all fail. When it's Go-Go's time, she still thinks the whole insane challenge thing is stupid. But if it's for Machi, she will do her best. She clears most of the obstacles, up until the most dangerous part. She has to jump over a giant blender. I'll leave it to your imagination what can happen if she falls in it. But she manages to jump over and stop the timer in the nick of time. However, Mr. Sparkle's pettiness knows no bounds. Even if the challenger won fair and square, he still pushes the button, launching the innocent cat into space. Thankfully, Hiro invents a flying robot with appendages that can hold anything. It catches up to the rocket, opens the window, and rescues Machi. It secures the cat inside its compartment and then returns to Hiro. Everyone slow claps to celebrate Machi's rescue. Hiro has gotten rid of his inventor's block. And the best part of it is that he inadvertently solves their issue with their suits. He names his new invention SkyMax, a delivery system that can give them their suits anytime, anywhere. Because of this innovation, the Big Hero 6 has gotten more efficient in their work as the city's superhero. Everyone applauds them for their deeds. But there is one man that is obsessed with finding out their real identity. Obake will do anything to achieve his goal. One day, Fred invites Wasabi, Hiro, and Baymax to Noodle Burger. It's a popular fast food joint in San Francisco. Now, they have added more services by commissioning a happiness robot named Noodle Burger Boy. For kids that are Hiro's age, the robot is effectively acting as the mascot for the food joint. Of course, Fred is impressed because this is his favorite place and the robot has already memorized his favorite order. Sadly, Noodle Burger Boy's function of spreading happiness will be short-lived, because in the next few days, he'll be a mascot for spreading terror in the city. In the university, Professor Granville announces to the students that the space station is looking for talented inventors. The goal is to create a robot or machine that can collect space junk and dispose of them properly. Wasabi and Hiro volunteers. But they don't exactly want to team up, they intend to work individually. Professor Granville insists on them working together, though. Before they have time to think about this, Go-Go informs them of an emergency. A runaway streetcar wreaks havoc on one of the streets of San Francisco. Just in time, the Big Hero 6 comes to rescue the passengers. When the car has been stopped, Baymax scans it for possible causes. He finds out that the emergency brake has been disabled, along with a few traces of ketchup. That's weird. Then Go-Go realizes that she received this notification anonymously. It's as if someone intentionally caused this accident so that the heroes can do their thing. Then, one of the floating metal balloons explodes and falls on the street. Honey Lemon and Wasabi stop it in time. Well, they don't know it yet, but it's Noodle Burger Boy that has caused this accident. He seems to be collecting some information on them. In the meantime, Wasabi and Hiro work together on the space station project. At the start of the collaboration, it can be observed that both students are extremely smart. They are able to come up with a great idea for a prototype in a short time. But this is where their similarities end. Wasabi is obsessed with cleanliness, organization, and procedures. On the other hand, Hiro is spontaneous, carefree with his surroundings, and tends to be impulsive when he thinks of an idea. As they continue working, their opposite natures hinder their progress. Even when Fred asks for help from them to find the missing Noodle Burger Boy, they tend to volunteer one another in the hopes of working on the project according to how they want. In the end, Honey Lemon and Go-Go accompany Fred. That night, the three of them patrol from the top of the food joint. To their surprise, the mascot appears. Fred is so happy to see Noodle Burger Boy, but what he doesn't expect is to be kicked by his favorite mascot. Apparently, it has been programmed to collect information and do evil things. Honey Lemon saves Fred using her chemball. Then the girls attempt to subdue the robot. The thing is, it has already memorized its moves. Fred comes back up and tries to talk to the mascot. Instead of listening, it punches Fred's suit. However, its punches are ineffective, so it makes a promise of coming back stronger than before. The three share their encounter with Hiro and Wasabi. At first, the two students decide to withdraw from the space project to help their friends. Their differences have obviously strained their working relationship. Go-Go convinces them to work together again for the sake of their friendship. So the two try again to work on their project, while the other three will go to Cray Tech. Apparently, Noodle Burger Boy has been created by them. Back in the university, Wasabi and Hiro reconcile their attitudes. They decide to work separately at first. This works fine, as they are able to assemble the robot. But the real test is when they run diagnostics for it. Hiro is correct to suggest they test their prototype in a dump to simulate the space junk. Wasabi agrees. Meanwhile, Fred and others gather from Alistair that Noodle Burger Boy is a scrap project of the military. It is made from military-grade titanium alloy and is supposed to collect information. That's a bad combination, especially now that the mascot is in the dumps as well to upgrade itself. It seems the two students, along with Baymax, testing their prototype. It listens as the two argue about the flaws of each other. So it uses the opportunity to capture Baymax and confiscate the prototype. It's too bad that the project is so well made that Wasabi and Hiro can only run away. They contact the others about the situation, while they retrieve their suits. Fred, Honey Lemon, and Go-Go arrive at the dump. They see Baymax trying to free itself from the crane. Even though they do their best to free their robot friend, Noodle Burger Boy is already familiar with their moves. It easily puts them down. Just in time, Wasabi and Hiro arrive. They finally reconcile for real this time. They also exchange suits to combat the mascot's prior information about them. This works, as the enemy gets confused about who is who. In the end, Hiro blocks the robot's blades. When it is about to blast him with a laser beam, Wasabi pushes the robotic arm out of the way. With no choice, they both destroy the prototype they made. Baymax is saved but Noodle Burger Boy escapes. Back in the university, they build their project again and Professor Granville praises them for a job well done. On the other side of San Francisco, the enemy mascot returns to its new master, Obake. It reports that it has finally completed gathering information about the Big Hero 6. At last, he gets to meet the city's superheroes.